What does John MacArthur think about this whole situation with Steve Lawson? Steve Lawson and his removal from Trinity Bible Church and his removal from all major ministries, including the Master's Seminary. We haven't heard from John MacArthur, and that's because he's been in the hospital recovering from a surgery. He is back home now, still recovering from that surgery. But he made some comments, and Kent Steinbach, an elder at Trinity Bible Church, explained exactly what John MacArthur thinks about this. Welcome to Truth Transforms. My name's Adam Markley, and we are going to take a look at some portions of this sermon preached by Kent Steinbach, an elder at Trinity Bible Church. Kent Steinbach, who is very well known at this point for one that was on a podcast with Steve Lawson during the morning daily devotional Steadfast Hope. He was on there with him for that, and also the men's Bible study. And so he got center stage with Steve Lawson. He's well known because of that, for those that follow Steve Lawson at least. And so he preached a sermon and had some things to say about the situation. Of course, not naming Steve Lawson by name, which is the normal thing that everyone does these days, but there was mention, there was reference to the situation. So I'm going to be playing a few clips for you there. We'll see his thoughts on the matter, the little bit that he shares, and what he has to say about John MacArthur. First, if you are new here, I do have a gift for you. It is Lessons in Philippians. It is during this chaotic time. It might be something that is a benefit to you, and I hope that you find it encouraging. You can find that at preachingforgodsglory.org/gift. That's preachingforgodsglory.org/gift. Link down there below in the description and the pinned comment, just for coming across this video. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's look at these clips here first. This first is Kent Steinbach talking about hardship and trouble, and the fact that David in this Psalm 25, is teaching patience.
When we find ourselves in hardship and trouble, and we want the Lord to fix it fast. We want Him to eliminate it fast. We want Him to give us all the answers now. And David wisely teaches us patience.
So he is encouraging patience. He preached on that psalm and said it is important to have patience. He continued on and had some more things to say about that. Talks about the need as to why there should be patience. And so here he alludes to the whole situation.
So why does David need patience? David's just like us. He has a natural inclination to want to have answers quick. I don't want to wait. You'd have to imagine David was dying for the Lord to answer his questions. And how did this happen, Lord? How long is it going to be before it's over? When are you going to clear this up for me? I need it now, and if you just tell me now, I'd feel so much better and I could just go on. Let me stop and say this. This struck a chord with me, given the experience over the last 2 weeks. There's no one in here that has more questions than me. And I'd love to have all those answered. Just a few. The Lord doesn't want to answer them right now. And I gained valuable insight from David. He's exercising patience, especially when these troubles escalate, because he came to understand better than most of us. It's going to be at God's timing before he gets the answers.
Now, David's talking about trouble coming from his enemies, and Kent there is preaching, and he's talking about the fact that we need to have patience and wait on God's timing. Those would be true things, of course, very true. It's a good thing for the congregation to be patient during this time, But as far as questions are concerned, the elders are there to answer some very basic questions. God will reveal certain things in his timing. He says there's nobody that has more questions than he does, and I'm sure he has many questions as to why this happened. Why did this happen during this time? Well, the church was growing. We just made plans to move into this new building, making big plans and made a big purchase, and all these things that had occurred. Why, Lord, why, of course, would be very fitting questions. But how about why, elders, why? Could you give us a reason for the dismissal? Could you give us something so that we have a little bit more to go off of than inappropriate relationship? Why, elders, are we getting more information off of things leaked on the internet than we are from here? Why are we getting information from third-party sources like Phil Johnson rather than a first-party source, which we assume are the elders? Why, elders, why should be the question that's really being asked, and that should be answered. And of course, we know much of the answer probably comes down to those non-disclosure agreements. It would be very unusual if one was not signed. I talked about that in another video. I've got a playlist down to all the videos that I've done on this as well. It would be very unusual if there was not non-disclosures were not signed, so we know that they're limited legally by what they can say, but that there is the problem. It was not biblical church discipline because they all lawyered up and made it so that nothing could be communicated to the church. That's not church discipline. That's just the way of the world. So let's not call it something that it's not. Okay, let's hear what John MacArthur had to say in this last clip. Here it is.
Lastly, I want to remind you that we are in a war with God and Satan that's being played out on this earth. It isn't make-believe, it isn't fantasy, and it isn't imagery. It is real. Satan is taking dead aim at those who are the biggest threat to him, just like he did everyone in this Bible. It's not over. And that's a fact. That's a fact. Do you remember how the Lord reassured Peter? Remember what he said? He gave him the end chapter. He got to see the last chapter. And he said, I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail. The evil forces cannot win. The church will never be shut in or die. God is purifying us. He's purging us. He's purging me and you for the days ahead. He's fortifying. He's building individually and corporately. As John MacArthur laid in the hospital last week, he said, Trinity will be stronger for this. And it will.
There you go. He said, John MacArthur said, Trinity will be stronger for this, and it will. Lots to say there. Number one, John MacArthur's not in the hospital anymore. For those of you that are concerned, he is back home recovering. Number two, John MacArthur saying Trinity will be stronger for this. Now, that's clearly taken as given to, justify actions and all that sort of thing. That doesn't mean that John MacArthur agrees with everything that's going on or everything that they're doing and the way that they're handling it. No, but of course, removing someone for the sin of adultery is a good thing. And so to say Trinity will be stronger for this, in essence, because of the spiritual health, yeah, that's 100% right. Others are taking this a different way. Church leaders had this to say. They said John MacArthur expresses support for Trinity Bible Church following Steve Lawson's scandal. I think that's a little strong. Expressing support. I mean, sure, expressing support in the sense of like removing a man in sin. But as far as that shouldn't be taken to mean that he's expressing support for their whole way of dealing with it. I mean, even Phil Johnson, who's John MacArthur's PR guy, who is basically speaking on behalf of him much of the time. Phil Johnson is saying inappropriate relationship is just too ambiguous. It causes a lot of problems. People are like, well, maybe it's not as serious as it seems to be. And then other people are thinking, well, maybe this is something far more serious than... And the reality is we still only have third-hand information. First-hand information would be the elders testifying to what occurred in that meeting. Second-hand information would be someone else who was told by the elders. So I guess Phil Johnson might be... we don't know if he talked directly to Steve Lawson would be first hand actually, and second hand would be the elders, and third hand would be Phil Johnson. So it's kind of like the elders saying we heard this from Steve Lawson, first degree. Second degree be the elders. Third degree be Phil Johnson and others. So anyone that's running off of information right now is not running it off of a testimony of anyone, not certainly not off of a confession of Steve Lawson. We haven't heard anything from him, and we probably won't because he's probably not allowed to speak on the issue. But that's what John MacArthur had to say about it. That's just a little update for you. Thanks for tuning in. There's a playlist down below to all the other episodes that I've done regarding this to help process through it, and this is just an update video. God bless you. I'll see you in the next one. Also, if you're new here, don't forget to take advantage of that free gift for you. Link down below. God bless.